26 miles off the coast of Los Angeles, Catalina Island offers a respite to the cares of daily routine and work. Purchased in 1919 by chewing gum magnate William Wrigley Jr., Catalina Island was to be a vacation paradise for the thousands of Americans who had made Wrigley one of America's richest men. In 1929, Wrigley opened the Avalon Casino, a huge building with one of the world's largest dance floors and a movie palace outfitted for sound. The casino stands as the island's most abiding symbol, representing not only Wrigley's expansive vision for the island, but a monumental ode to the island's prosperity.
Wrigley was very clear in that he did not want the island to be just for the rich. He wanted the island to be for what he called the rank and file, the middle class of America. They indeed were the people that helped him make his fortune. And I think in some respects, the island represents a kind of payback on his part to the middle class. He wanted this to be almost a fantasy to come true for these people. People who never dreamed that they could have an island vacation, that they could enjoy sun, they could enjoy beaches, and they could cavort on an island. This was way beyond their means. And so he really felt that this was what he called a democratic dream. And it was his democratic dream. It was his payback to a middle class that really enabled him to make a fortune.
It was a winning strategy. Beginning in the early 1930s, nearly 1 million tourists a year were coming to the island. Among them were movie stars like Charlie Chaplin and Paulette Goddard, Errol Flynn, Ward Bond, David Niven, Orson Welles, the directors John Ford and Cecil B. DeMille. Even Marilyn Monroe lived for a time on the island during World War II. The entire enterprise seemed unstoppable. And then, in 2008, recession hit the island.
The recession really hit us hard. Tourism dropped immediately by about 30%. Unemployment rose and businesses were closing. It was really the first time since World War II that we had to face the fact that we had to do something and do something quickly.
The island is dependent upon its history to a great extent. And it doesn't change because it is dependent upon its history. If you look at the Green Pier, if you look at the buildings surrounding the wharf, if you look at the casino, these areas have not changed very much from the time they were built in the 1930s and the 1940s. But when the recession hit in 2008, it was clear to a lot of people that the island had to begin to provide some of the modern conveniences and some of the modern entertainments that other locations that really depend upon tourism also provide. How much do we change? And how do we change? How do we keep history alive? How do we not change that? But at the same time, how do we modernize? How do we update? And this was really the central challenge that we all confronted for several years.
The museum is probably the most prominent symbol on the island of the recovery. When the recession hit, our board could have dug a deep trench and hunkered down and just waited it out. But instead, we expressed confidence in the museum, in the island, in the country, really. And we decided to embrace change. I've always been a firm believer that change is a good thing. So contrary to what was happening around the country, a lot of museums were closing or reducing their staffs or whatever it took to survive. We decided that the recession would be a time of growth for our museum.
The museum is located on the ground floor of the casino building. When the recession hit, everything went down. The museum's store sales were down, admissions were down. We had dropped to 300 members. We decided we had to reignite the excitement about the museum and get our audience back.
So we closed it. And we completely renovated it. There's not a square inch of this museum that hasn't been renovated in some way. We began to look at how we presented our exhibitions. And we decided that we needed to look at a different way of presenting what we did. So we introduced technology to the museum. We began to make our own documentary films, for example. We began to look at areas of Catalina Island's history that had never really been looked at before. Marilyn Monroe, just to name one. Her stay on the island had never been explored, and we dedicated an entire exhibition to that. So we reopened in February of 2011, and bam, the museum was an instant success. We grew almost immediately from 300 members to 1,800 members to almost 2,000 now. So I think we're really one of the great success stories of America right now when you look at museums in the United States. I don't know any museum in the United States that during that time of recession had that kind of explosive growth.
In 2013, Catalina Island Museum will celebrate its 60th anniversary, and with it comes another goal: the building of a new state-of-the-art facility right in the center of town, so anyone and everyone who visits this island paradise can easily enjoy and embrace their rich, unique collections.
The museum never had a permanent home. We always rented space here in the casino building. So at the height of the recession, our board decided, let's construct a new building. With the success of our renovation, our effort gained momentum. We purchased the property, we designed a new building, and we've almost raised all the funds necessary to begin construction of the new building. Soon we will grow into an 11,000 square foot building, our first permanent home in 60 years. I think we've surprised a lot of people.
I think what we've demonstrated is that history is important. History is important not only to a museum, obviously, but it's important to an island. It was important to the economic health of the island. And I think more islanders now love their history and love to talk about their history and love to discuss their history with visitors because they feel that history is something that you love, you respect, and you share. And that's in essence what we're doing. We're proud that we respect our history and that we share it, but we're also proud to be making some history too.
For an unforgettable experience, make your plans to visit the Catalina Island Museum today. For more information, go to catalinamuseum.org or call 310-510-2414.